Alright, let's grab the rest of these blueprints here, and then we are going to build ourselves a Nova. Total blueprint cost, if you have to buy them all, is 450,000 faction credits. Now, the fun thing about the Nova is you can buy the blueprints from all three of the faction stores. So you can kind of diversify your costs. So you don't have to I don't have to dump just all of my, Klingon credits into getting the blueprints for it. I could use some Romulan credits, which is what I did at the beginning, to get a few blueprints here. In fact, I'll go ahead and grab one more just because I can. If I had the reputation for Federation as well, I could cash these in and get even more there. So that way it helps sort of distribute the costs a little bit. And we need 8 more. Like I said, it's 450,000 total. Now, the level 55 and higher hostiles, including the freebooters, do have a chance to drop Nova blueprints. I have gotten one or two that way. It's not very reliable, and to hit those kinds of things, you are going to take a lot of hull damage. But relatively speaking, compared to your other miners that start at about 1,000,000 strength, or even less if you're talking about your G3 faction miners, your Nova starts off at 20 million strength with 11 million hull health. But look at the costs. 72 billion tritanium just to build the stupid thing. And as far as details go, DPR 857,000 per round. Well, hey, would you look at that? But you're starting with a warp range of 270, which is the big benefit because it can get all the way out to those G5 nodes very, very quickly. Now, this may be factoring in my research already. I'm not sure about that. We'll find out when I build it if this changes at all. It's probably factoring in the research. I can check on stfc.space as well. Cargo capacity 11 million right off the bat, which is also nice. Base protected cargo of over 100K. So, not a cheap ship at all. But we're going to get one of those cooking there. Yeah, certainly pricey. Let's go to stfc.space while we're waiting to get some helps there. And let's look at the Nova on the website. So, when mining 5-star materials, so you get the bonus for all 3 of them, mining speed is increased. It starts off at 150%. This ability adjusts based on your ship level, ship XP, and that's going to scale up significantly as the ship grows. Yep. Going from tier 1 to tier 2, 700 billion tritanium. Oh, well, isn't that lovely? Just to level this thing up once. Looking at a ridiculous repair cost as well. 17 billion tritanium to repair it. Dear God, what am I getting myself into? But the base level is just all common parts to go from 1 to 2. 2 to 3 is where you start using uncommons. So you could conceivably get this thing up to level 10 before you actually have to start using any uncommon parts, which will change your ship bonus from 150 to 180%. Come down here, we start looking at, cargo bay, protected resources. It does fire twice every round, so it's better than many of your other mining ships. There are refits for it, which do increase the mining rate of specific materials by another 250%. There's actually 3 refits for it. Base warp range is 245, so it was showing me the bonus from my research, which was giving me the other 25. So tier 1 you're talking about 245, tier 2 260, and if you can get the warp drive component it's going to go up to 275. if that's the first component you do when you have to start using uncommon parts, you're going to have to warp range 275, which is going to get you out to some pretty good spots. And then warp speed, not bad also. Cargo, again, based cargo numbers. Nothing super spectacular, but you know, these systems out here, these are all 285. So being able to, you know, not have to use Grush and, you know, or Marfisha and things like that and mine at a very, very slow rate, which we'll just take by comparison right now. So using my Fisha, if I'm mining on one of these nodes here, whoops, the base rate is about 6,000 if I actually have the right officers in the right order. We're talking about 7,200 is what I'd be mining these nodes with the Fisha. Yeah, it's a very high build cost for sure. So glad you're nowhere near that. I wish the Horizon would be redesigned to the Nova model instead of 3 separate models. Oh, you mean like with the G3 faction miners? Yeah, how they all have the individual bonuses. I think because of the cost associated with building this particular ship, they decided not to have it require 3 separate builds. At least I hope that's what they were thinking, because that was pretty expensive just to get it going there. Then turn on your FC and check for changes you want to see. Oh, the fleet commander? I have Kirk. I think it's Spock who does mining, isn't it? Yeah, Spock's the one with the mining bonuses. And I do not have Spock. I'm only halfway to Spock. Kirk doesn't have any mining bonuses. He's got protected cargo. There's also the Ops 58 miner, so the Nova is modeled after the Horizon. That's true. There are the high-level faction miners. They were added later, though. They were more of a more recent change, I feel like. The Nova came out with G5, and then 4 or 5 months later, they added the other mining ships there. All right, we can go ahead and speed this up now. We got a few helps, cut it down from 19 days down to 17 days. She's not much to look at, but she's got it where it counts. All right, now let's go ahead and just swap ships here for a second. And before we were looking at about, what, 6,000? Now we're talking about 33,000 an hour. So obviously a significant upgrade. You're actually getting the ship to do the things that you want it to do, which is pretty substantial. And now here we're talking about, this is a lot of crystal to upgrade. Ouch. Just doing that first entry level stuff. It's a lot of crystal or latinum, because the latinum conversion rate on this is not good for G5 stuff. Not to mention the billions and billions of materials you're also spending here. I'm probably just going to do, where's the warp engine? Okay. just to get the extra warp range. Yeah, alright, fine. But, I mean, now you're talking about not only needing thousands and thousands of common ship parts, but also thousands of common materials as well. And if you're like, well, just convert the Latinum for it. Well, Latinum converts at a pretty pricey, I believe it's 12 to 1. 147,504 divided by 12292. Yeah, it's 12 to 1. So every common 5-star material you want to use costs 12 Latinum to do so, whereas with G4 ships, common resources are 4 to 1. They used to be 10 to 1. Then G5 came out and they lowered them down to 4 to 1. So it got a little bit better there. But now, let's just double check exactly which ones I still need. I got my ore for today, but I did not get my crystal today, right? No, so I still have to go mine crystal. Okay. I do want to do the ship XP though. We'll take that extra 30% mining rate. And that first officer slot, so I can also exchange and swap officers as I need to. But I also want Grush. To get the extra warp range so I can reach the better nodes. Although, let me just, while I have it here, let me just double check this real quick. So now that we made those little subtle changes, normally, so it went to 33,000, we did scale it up, went from 150 to 180, now we're up to 34,000, so slight little change there. And now I'm going to swap officers. The entry-level systems are usually pretty crowded, so I tend to go out to the ones that are the Warp 285. But thanks to Grush, I'm actually up to 319 now, so I actually probably could map out some of these other systems I haven't been able to reach yet, too. That could be cool. 17-minute flight time, though. Excuse me. Any player in G5 has millions of Latinum, though. Not all of us. The players who have been in G5 for a while certainly do. But it's not like, you know, it's not like I go buy a pack in the store and I get 20 million Latinum. You know, if I want to go buy, well, let's look at even just a generic station pack. I get 1 million Latinum. I get a little bits of resources and stuff here. This would get me some of the stuff that I needed. Well, let's see what else. Just hypothetically speaking, if we wanted to upgrade this thing. Is it here? Oh, hey, I can now buy the 53s. What do they value these ships at? 19 apiece. I'm going to guess it's 800. Yeah, you're just shy of 8. So you have to buy 8 packs. So if you wanted a 53 ship and just wanted to buy all the blueprints outright, they only consider a 53 uncommon, because it's an uncommon, to be about an $800 ship, which is, I mean, if an Enterprise is $500 or $600, and Pilum is like $1,300. Even though this ship is drastically superior in terms of strength and power and things it can do, because it's an uncommon and the faction credit cost to acquire it is lower, Scopely values it at a lower price point, which is interesting to know. As you can see here, buying a 50 Epic would cost you $2,600 to just buy it straight out. Buying a Coronar would be $1,300. Buying a 53 uncommon is only $800. So hey, look at that, you're getting a discount. But I wanted to see if there are ship upgrade packs in here. There we go. So if I wanted the new Surveyor pack, so if I just wanted to upgrade this particular ship, I'd get the parts, I'd get uncommon parts and common parts and little bits of materials and some common materials. It would probably cost me, if I were just going to buy the components, $200 or $300 just to tier this thing up. Or even if I just bought one pack and used the Million Latinum, maybe to get one or two of the other components. So it would not be a super cheap thing to upgrade. And then I do have the multiphasics as well that I would get out of it. Which would also get me some additional 5-star parts and materials as well. Interesting. The Mania's first time making a live stream. Well, welcome. Glad to have you in. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much to everyone else who looks like they've just joined the channel recently. We're building we just built a Nova. We're going to go test it out. We're going to go do some mining with it. Maybe map out some of these deeper space systems as well, since I now have warp capability over 300. A Nova with the first warp engine upgrade should not need Grush to reach warp 285. It just barely does, actually. As we learned from looking at it. So the warp range on it was 245. If I do have the warp range upgrade, you're right. It would be 285 exactly. You're right. It would be 285. I apologize for that. But we're going to check out some other systems out here as well. Only $800. Yeah, exactly. Pilum costs $0. If you put the time in and you grind the faction credits and things, of course you can get it for free. Absolutely. But if you're one of those people who sees a new thing and it's just like, hey, I want this now, that's how you have to go about getting it, right? And there are those players out there. Hey, here's the new thing. I really want to go get this, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go buy this thing right now. While the content is outstanding, his volume is always a little low. Yeah, my volume is a little lower than other people. I'm not trying to melt your faces off. But this actually is the highest setting that my volume controls in OBS and on my computer are at 100%. So I really don't even know anymore why some people say it comes through softer for them and other people say, yeah, it sounds just fine to me. Not really anything else I can change that does anything different about that, but... What server am I on? I'm on server 40, Lojax. On this account. This account is on server 40. Actually, let's do that. Let's go explore some of these new systems. I have a soft angelic voice. You're half right. One person did describe me as the white Morgan Freeman, but I think they were just being really generous and kind with that remark. Other thing to keep in mind if you're thinking about events coming up in the next few minutes, we should have our third ticket event today. Balabom, thank you very much for the follow. We should have our third ticket event today, so if you want to jump on any gas nodes to get that ticket event rolling, now would be an excellent time to do that. Let's see if there's any open in my territory before that actually happens. Hey, would you look at that? There's one open. Let's go grab this one real quick before that ticket event starts. Am I free to play or do I have a budget? This account, I do occasionally spend money when I need to. You know, a couple hundred here, a couple hundred there, nothing like super crazy. Usually it's just like the $20 battle pass, and then maybe once in a while, if there's something specific that I want, like a prime or something like that, I might pick it up. I do have a second account that I also play on. That's on the EU server. That is 100% free to play, and that account is Ops38. And we just hit our 1-year anniversary with that account last week. So 1 year free to play, $0 spent, no promotional materials or anything like that redeemed otherwise also. And that account is about halfway through Ops38. I have a voice for radio. At least you didn't say I have a face for radio. I appreciate that. Chris, you've already got your pile 'em up to tier 4. Awesome. Congrats on that. You can probably go all the way to tier 6, but the spend event just isn't worth it for you. And that's what I've heard more than a few people say this month, is that Riker and Worf aren't really worth it, so they don't want to spend a lot of materials making progress on things this month. They're just going to sit on the materials and just, grind it out for another 2 or 3 more weeks and wait for the May arc, which will be a whole new storyline, and cross their fingers and hope that whatever officers are in that storyline are better. We have no idea what May is going to bring. It could be, another new property like a Star Trek Prodigy or something like that. It could be another property revisited. They could be going back to Strange New Worlds to tie in with Season 2 launching. It could go back to, Lower Decks or Discovery, because the final season of Discovery is going to be, launching here pretty soon as well. So what exactly they want to put into this next couple of months remains to be seen. Voyager is also looming on the horizon, but personally I would think Voyager, much like Deep Space Nine and Next Generation they'd be closer to the end of the year. I think we'll see Voyager again August, September, not May, June, July. So I feel like we still have one more thing to get through before we get to Voyager. You're only using armadas for points, not any materials. Oh. A says you're only spending because of desired progression, not desired officers. That's kind of the boat that I'm in right now myself. There are things that I wanted to spend on or use materials on to upgrade just to make progress and keep myself moving along. And that's what I'm doing. Am I going crazy in terms of oh yeah, I'm gonna cash in multiphasics or buy a pack or something like that with some resources so I can try and place higher on these leaderboards and things? No, definitely not. But if I'm sitting here oh well, I can do these upgrades. Oh, I can finish this up and I can tier up my Tribune. Be okay. Do I want to sit on this and wait 4 or 5 weeks to get this one last component if I could do it, to then tier it up to a whole nother tier and 5 more levels of ship XP and power and things like that, no, I would probably do the one component if I could. Hopefully I'll be able to do this one next weekend, and we'll see what we get out of it. I will say that I did like this time around, we did have a paired SMS. We did not have an SMS the first time around. So having a paired SMS, which actually, oh, there's still a day left on it, to pick up a handful of extra shards. It's 8 extra shards of each of them. I mean, it's something, right? It's a little something extra. As opposed to the first time around where we didn't get much of anything. So, Build Everything Voyager will be September with G6 economy. Sometime around there, August, September. I mean, if we go May, June, July for a 3-month arc, then August would start it. Unless this next arc happens to be a 4-month arc, we go May, June, July, August. If we're doing more recycling of older content, we just got an Apex update. We know there's other updates looming, like for Crucible of War and things like that are also getting overhauls. The Borg event might be getting an overhaul. So they may continue with this trend for another couple months of readjusting older content. So we might see some adjustments to, Discovery. We might see some adjustments to some of that other stuff. Chris, so that's kind of what you did too. You built your Pylum and you got it to where it was good enough for what you needed it to use for, and now you'll sort of just sit on the materials until later. It's a good strategy. We'll just cross our fingers and hope that next month's officers are better than what we got this month. Balabom, you're thinking of spending all your event store loot on Cerritos parts to get closer to max tier on it. Okay. Now, just remember, you probably know this, but for the other 150 people watching who may not know this, if you are going to buy ship parts in the event store for the Amalgam, the Fuchsia, the Cerritos, or the Mantis, those 4 ships, the amount of ship parts you get in your bundle is directly related to the current tier of your ship. The cost never changes. The cost of acquiring a bundle never changes. It's always exactly the same, $7,500 for a bundle of parts. But the amount of parts that you get directly relate to the tier of the ship. So if you are planning on doing that and spending a bunch of parts to move up multiple levels, don't buy all your parts at once. Buy enough parts to get through the current tier you're on, stop, tier the ship up, then come back, and now you'll see that your parts bundle will have more parts in it. So you'll spend less event store currency to acquire all the parts you need. So if you're like, oh, I'm tier 7 and I want to go to tier 10, and you're like, well, that'll cost me 250,000 parts to do it. Don't just buy 250,000 parts. Buy enough to go from 7 to 8, stop, upgrade it, then come back. This might be 4,000 parts now. So now you're getting more parts for your money, more value out of it. And I think those are the only 4 ships that are directly related to that, so. Always like to point that out to people. Once you max your Cerritos, you start to get particles to do the final 3 researches. So there is an event, which we can go look up. When you get your Cerritos to tier 12, yeah, I know, dear God, tier 12. Reset, I just want to look at events that were on Wednesday. It's this one, Second Contact Elite SMS. This is doing damage to armadas this week. It requires you to have a tier 12 Cerritos. I think this one changes every week. But it gives you these rare Culver particles for completing the SMS in addition to additional resources and things, depending on what your ops level and stuff is. It'll give you different parts based on that or different amounts. Looks like it's only still giving 4-star stuff though. Just the amount you get seems to change. But you get these rare Culver particles out of it, and this is the only way currently to get the rare particles is to have a tier 12 ship and complete this. And those are the particles that you need before I get sniped while I'm just sitting here chatting. In order to do these last couple of researches here in the Starbase tree, I'm sorry, Starship tree, for your Cerritos. These cybernetic enhancements require rare Culver particles. Improving critical hit damage, improving base damage against other player ships. So the only way to get the materials for these guys and for this one here to improve your shield mitigation is to have the tier 12 ship. Yeah. The actual Cerritos refinery doesn't change other than the amount of parts and stuff you get. You're still getting the same draws on officers. None of that stuff changes to the best of my knowledge. Alright, so now we got some higher level systems that we could get to. This one I could actually relocate my base to if I wanted to come out here and kill some higher level hostiles. I can't, but it's nice to know that I could. Let's go check out some of these other areas.